G'day and welcome to the Making It With Myles podcast, where we have two formats of the podcast itself. Okay, so we've got The Shed, which we talk all things about building, construction, the real estate industry through the lens of a building inspector. And then we also have another format called The Journey. The Journey is more or less, we dabble in a bit of personal development every now and then because you know what, it's good for you and it makes you better, helps your business, helps you out. All those good things. So this episode is an episode of The Shed. This one is specifically for the old tradies. Okay, we're talking builders, we're talking chippies, we're talking sparkies, we're talking roof tilers. All the lads and ladies out there helping this building construction industry. I do get a lot of people reach out to help with requests on things that they're trying to do. This one in particular is how to get work in construction. Okay, this is sort of my approach to it personally. It worked well for me. I've moved on from construction now, but at the time it kicked ass and I was very happy with that. So to begin with, we're going to talk about from more or less subcontractors and builders in the construction industry itself. Okay, so there's really three things you want to begin with. First off, understand your price point, how you estimate your actual work itself, the quoting process, etc., all those types of things. Two, understand what product you actually deliver. Okay, be very specific with what you're doing. It's always best to understand exactly the specific service that it is, and you can scale that accordingly. Or you might be a man of many trades or some sort of handyman. That's cool as well. You know your role is handyman, not multi-million-dollar bloody developer. Okay, so just be careful of exactly what your product is. Three, be open to growth and more or less don't miss out on those opportunities. Okay, so we'll sort of expand on these and I'll give a few points and examples of how this has sort of helped me throughout my little process. More or less, you need to ensure that you have that confidence to expand to whatever goals and dreams that you want to get to. Okay, you are genuinely limited by what your actions are. We can dream big, but the actions themselves is what creates the change. Okay, so we're going to have 9 points that I sort of want to get through, which I think will help just give some clarity to a lot of the people asking about getting construction work and all that sort of stuff in our lovely, delicious industry. First things first is understand your needs and your wants. So, are you just doing maintenance work? Do you want to do small jobs? Do you want to do big jobs? Do you want to do commercial jobs? Do you want to do residential jobs? Be very clear as to what direction you actually want to go in, okay? Not what it is in the present, but what direction you want that company or your role or whatever that may be moving forward. You might be an apprentice chippy that actually wants to go out on their own. Understand what that sort of big picture looks like so you can take the appropriate steps along that path, all right? During this process, sort of number two, which is going to talk about, is talk to people. Opportunities don't just fly onto your lap and then you just pick them up willy-nilly and life's easy and business is easy and you just move on and everything's great. That is complete bullshit. You actually have to go out there and talk to people. Go out of your comfort zone. Go out there and actually speak to people within your industry itself, all right? So a good example of this would be someone that is potentially maybe a roof tiler. All right. Roof tiling themselves, there's obviously different sort of aspects to it. You're obviously working for a builder. You might be working for a client. You might be doing some maintenance work, things like that. Okay. With that in particular sort of example is talk to people in regards to who can give you the work. And some people in the industry are dickheads and they're probably not going to want to talk to you, or they don't give a shit about you, or they think your quality of work's shit, or they think your price is shit. That's okay. All right. You be firm on what you deliver. You be firm on the quality you deliver. Ideally, your product needs to be top notch so you can charge accordingly in those situations. But in those situations where you're speaking to other people, you'll be speaking to things like builders, obviously, and it's just a cold reach out. I do this is the product I do, this is what I deliver. From a maintenance point of view, you might even speak to people like building inspectors, okay? So I go to 80% of the tile roofs that I come across need some sort of maintenance work put in place. You could reach out to building inspectors and say, this is what I do, this is my service. I do maintenance work in these sort of areas. If you know anyone or if anyone's looking for us, please reach out. Happy to be a part of it and help out where I can. Most of the time during these situations, and I find this all the time for myself, is if I'm going out to sort of get some advice or just reach out just to get a little bit of help for work coming in, what I found in at those times was that it may not be that person that you're speaking to that can directly help you, but while you're having those conversations, it's always worth saying, mate, do you know any other builders that might need some help, something like this? Or do you know any sort of other situations or any real estate agents that need to do maintenance work on properties? Love to reach out to them, see if I can help them out. That would be much appreciated. Okay. And always put it in a way like, you want to help out. Okay. You don't call up and say, I want fucking work, give me work. You always want to be, it's a team environment, okay? If you are helping the builder, which you are, and you're getting paid for it, then that approach is a much more softer approach and easier to sort of take in from a complete stranger on the phone, all right? What you'll find in those situations is the builder themselves or the person you've reached out to might have a massive list of people. They're like, oh, mate, yeah, speak to Billy Bob, the builder. He might have some work for you, or he might know someone that can help you out as well. And then just create and build on that sort of network itself. You call up Billy Bob, the builder, and you just spoke to, Frank Hawk, the construction officer down the road, and you can just sort of drop a name, say, mate, this is what I'm doing, all that sort of stuff. And then Billy Bob, the builder itself, you can, again, reach out to him and expand your network even further, okay? So it's about being uncomfortable in those situations where you call someone, get more advice or more direction as to sort of these specific people you could speak to that will help benefit your specific product or service, to then expand on that to get more work coming in, okay? Ideally, what you want is you want so much work coming in that you either got to up your prices or knock work back or then increase your company itself, okay? That's the sort of situation you want to be sitting in. Now, when you get into these situations, ideally, you want to have something to present, okay? You might have a physical flyer that you have. You might have an online Instagram page. You might have an online website. You might have a flyer that you can email to a specific person, okay? Whenever you have these interactions, it's always best to leave some sort of trail so they can actually refer back to it, okay? You might send your contact details. Within that, it's nice and professional. You've got your company logo. You've got your company address. You've got your name. You've got what you do, the services, email addresses, phone numbers, all that type of stuff. Fax if you're old as shit. Now, all these things are very, very important because what it does is it's going to set an example and expectation of who you are as a person, as your company, because you represent your company, especially if you're a sole trader themselves. So being professional is probably one of the most critical things that you need to do. If you're going to a job, dress appropriately. Don't wear your piece of shit clothes. You might be a corker and you're just absolutely covered in shit. Be presentable, okay? Have some respect for what you do. Have some respect for the client. Present well, not just in the way that you present your product, but also the way you communicate, okay? There's been many situations where I've actually got the job simply because I could communicate to the person. I was direct, I was open, and I was honest. I definitely wasn't the cheapest and I definitely wasn't the most expensive, but I was always up there in the sort of the top, above the half, the top bracket from a cost perspective, because what I delivered to the clients, even as a young chippy, barely had a website, but I had something there that they could refer to. It had pictures of past work that I've done. It had customer reviews online. It had things like a portfolio, examples of materials, stuff like that. You want to actually put some effort into these types of things because it definitely does pay off, okay? As you're presenting, there's something else you want to get clear, and that is your pricing as well. If you are able to give a rough estimate or have some sort of rough gauge of what your cost will be based on the job, or you can quote it there on the spot, make sure those quotes are clear and precise. Make sure there is no bump steering anyone. Make sure that you could tell your client things that you are excluding, okay? Because there's always the issues that always come up in these situations in regards to disputes with clients or disputes with builders is the quote itself being a bit ambiguous or a bit grey or a bit broad. Make it very specific, make it very detailed, make sure they understand some things that you will not do. You might be stripping a roof back, or you might be doing some plumbing or something like that, and you might be like, yep, I'm going to change all the downpipes, everything's going to be all good. Please note, we're not doing any in-ground plumbing inspection to see if what we're hooking up to is actually going to fucking work, but that's the case, all right? Because some things that can arise. A tiler is a great example. You might be a tiler that does not do any silicone work whatsoever, and really the completion of the job needs silicone to use your bloody shower, okay? So there's going to be so many clients that be like, oh shit, I thought you did the silicone work. And they're like, no, we don't do silicone work. And it just makes the whole process for them a bit shit, to be honest. So just be very clear on that and just set an expectation that can be met and understood by the client, so they understand their cost implications if they need to get any further trades in to actually complete the task itself. And you're not going to have any dramas, okay? Because you can just say, this is the job I'm doing. You do the job, and then client, you pay the bloody bill. There's no, oh, I thought you did this, I'm not paying you for this. There's no arguments or any bullshit. It's contractual, it's business. You execute your side of it. You communicated well, you were clear, you were precise. You gave all the information they possibly needed, and that's it. So if there are any disputes, you have the upper hand because there are some clients who want to take the piss and want to be a pain in the ass. And there's a lot of builders that do the exact same thing, okay? If you're not clear on your quote, you can get rolled, and it's not a place you want to be whatsoever. So as well as presenting well, we're going to sort of fall back to building that network. Build a network. These might be competitors. These might be other trades similar to you. They might be, a plumber, and you might be a tiler, and they might be getting a job that's, they got a leaky tap and now they've got to do some tiling work. Build these networks and relationships and help one another out as best as practicable, okay? So the more you do that, the bigger and the better the opportunities you're going to get, all right? Because that plumber's going to have a conversation with his high-end builder that's been building bloody 2-rack mansions, $24 million properties, and he's going to say one day, do you know any tilers? And he goes, mate, I know this tiler. He usually does sort of small jobs here and there, but he is a fucking gun. He says what he's going to do. He always arrives on time. He does a quality job. He communicates well. I would give him a call and I'll just push to get him on site to at least price the job, okay? So building that network is what's going to help create those opportunities, which then in turn creates more work. And then in turn, you get to a certain situation where you're employing more people to fulfill the work, and they're fulfilling it to your standards. And as well as that, you might just up your prices to a point where, okay, now I'm running a business here. I'm running my price point up. I'm not taking on the small shitty jobs of people that don't want to pay. I'm going to start leveling up myself. And then you'll get to another cap again where you sort of take a little nosedive down, employ more people, then take another rise up to take that next step within your company itself. So to recap, building that network, super critical. Next one, number 5, is small jobs can lead to much larger opportunities. I have had many, many, many situations where I've done a small job for a specific client, and that has led on to another small job, and that has led on to another client, which has led it on to a much bigger opportunity, and then bigger opportunities, and it just grows and grows and grows. So when you get to a certain situation where you start knocking back all those small jobs, pick and choose which ones you do. There might be some in particular where you just simply don't have the capacity to actually help out at all, which does suck. But if you do have any sort of capacity whatsoever, it isn't a bad idea to take on some of these small clients who can actually excel you dramatically by, again, expanding that network. They'll know someone else. They know someone else. Obviously, during that process, you need to make sure you're doing a bloody shithole job, and you're that client who's only a small job, you're acting and you're delivering the same service as if they're doing a multi-million-dollar job. Okay, so you still got to look after everybody, ensuring that what you say is true and what you say goes, because that word of mouth and that reputation will follow you forever. If you start expanding on the big projects and just start all the small jobs, you just give them the shits and piss off all the clients, you would be better off just not doing the jobs, because that bad reputation will follow you and it's not something you want to try recoup. So if you're doing those small jobs, which I highly recommend you do because it does help those opportunities, make sure the processes in place are schmicko and you're looking after those clients in particular. Okay, number 6 is more specific to subcontractors. Okay, so with regards to some subcontractors, most of the time subcontractors kind of work for builders, or they have their own clients on the side, all right? With regards to subcontractors, one thing I would highly recommend you do is reach out to reputable builders. And it's pretty obvious, but there's shitloads of builders out there, and some of them have shitty trades. Some of them, they might have brilliant trades, but they don't kind of fit the budget. Some of them might have brilliant trades, but their lead time is like 3-4 months away. So there's nothing wrong with being option number 2 for a reputable builder. Okay, it can at least get your foot in the door. You can be doing some ripper quality projects where there's plenty of money in the budget. You just put your price in, you can build your price setup, you can again expand on that portfolio so you can present well in those future sort of opportunities that do come over time when you start reaching out to further reputable builders and those types of things, okay? And again, it goes back to that expanding your network. It goes back to making those calls. It goes back to reaching out to these people who sometimes are in need of hearing the right thing at the right time and need that specific trade because they just bloody well do. And again, fall back to how you present yourself. Be professional. Don't just go out there and say, I want work, got any work, shit like that. Say, I'm doing this. This is our service. This is what we've delivered before. We do want to improve. We do want to expand and do better projects. And we're looking to find reputable builders, pump them up a little bit. And we'd love to help out in any way possible. Here's our details. If you want to give us a call, it'd be great. If you want to meet on site, that'd be no worries at all. Build those relationships. Now, another important thing in regards to some contractors is also reaching out to people like architects, draftsmen, designers, real estate agents, building inspectors, people within this sort of construction industry, okay? So they may not have a direct touch to the construction work as a builder would, but in those situations, there are some times, especially with designers, and say you're an electrician, all right, there are designers and architects that have their own preferred trades that they do recommend based on their quality, based on what they deliver, who get given top ranking for the builder. So that there might even be a situation where the designer themselves says, all right, this is the project, there's 3 builders that got to price the job, but this is the electrical scope, this is the preferred electrician, and that's the process that we do come across a fair bit. Okay, it's more so in design or maybe finishes and stuff like that, or a tiler. Those things happen all the time. But what's important about that is these people, again, they have a lot of conversations with just mums and dads and stuff like that who are looking to get some help or need some building work put in place in their home. Maybe it's like a little tiny ensuite renovation, which you're not going to do drawings for, but they might have reached out to these specific people and they can just have a bit of a hit list of people they can sort of throw to the side and say, right, well, you don't need drawings for this in particular, but you can reach out to XYZ Tiling. They're fantastic. They do great quality work. They're worth a try. And that's it. So reaching out to this sort of, again, expanding that work network, being comfortable enough to say, this is what I deliver, execute. I'm fucking shit hot. This is my quality. This is what I do, and have those things in place so you can just give them all the information they need, the websites, the socials, all that sort of shit. So you can actually prove to them up front before they've even met you who you are as a company and what they're going to expect from working specifically with you. Another one specific to builders is with regards to getting like further work. Again, it's the same situation. And I've had a lot of chippies come to me saying, I want to get my builder's license. How do I get the work? How do you get building jobs? All that type of stuff. And pretty much the process that I would recommend taking, which I took and it worked out really well, was putting a professional portfolio together. So an actual physical document that has images of all the construction projects you've done. It might have a bit of a brief on who you are, what your experience is, what you've done, all that sort of stuff. It's a solid, nice bound piece of bloody portfolio or artwork that you can give to these people who, when we talk about these people, I mean by architects and drafties and interior designers and stuff like that. And it can start a conversation, okay? It's something physical you can give to them. It's something they can hold on to and they can look into. They can put it on their shelf with all their books about how to draw shit, and they can pull it out and refer back to it in future, okay? I've done this numerous times. For me personally, it got to a certain point where I was leaving the construction industry, but had a hit list of architects that was sending me work that I had to unfortunately knock back. In those situations, I just passed them on to another builder. Again, that network, builders, we're not all in competition. We all work together. So if you do that, life makes it much easier. So he scored a few fucking cracking jobs out of it. But you go in and present yourself again with confidence, with what your intentions is, and work with them and help them as much as possible. The more you help others, the more return you will get. Yes, it is free work. I understand that. But these are the things you've got to put in place before you start getting traction, getting momentum, and building that reputation that gives you the work just flows in, and they're expecting you to already do the job before you've even priced the project itself, right? There are stepping stones to this process, okay? One interesting project that I actually got into was I was on a forums website, Build One, I think it's called, and it was just answering questions and trying to help people there as best as practicable. And as a builder, I replied to many of the comments, and one person in particular reached out looking for some sort of building advice in Victoria. Gave them all the advice, said to them, based on the square meterage and based on your drawings, you'd be looking at a price around, $650, $700 for this construction project. And from that, he went back to the drawing board. They had to modify a few things. I gave some advice on some structural elements, which I think were a bit shit, and you could save like 50 grand, which they did. And then they made changes, all that sort of stuff. And I got a response back in 6 months, and they said, we want you to price the job. At that stage, that was when I was transitioning to do other sort of work, do my building inspection company as well as my technology business. So I had to knock it all back. But in that one in particular, what I did, it got to a certain point where they were so happy with all the help that I gave them, which was only a few emails and an hours of work. I passed it on to a mate of mine who's also a builder. He priced the job. He ended up landing the job. So he ended up landing himself a $750,000 like extension renovation in Northcote. And from that job, he scored another job, an $850,000 new build. Okay, so from returning a message on a forums website in Australia, a mate of mine, unfortunately not me, but that's okay, scored $1.7 million worth of work. Okay, so these things can happen. There's all opportunities everywhere. There's people looking for help. There's Facebook groups. There's all these types of things where the novice person has no idea how to find a builder, okay? And you can sort of get yourself into those positions to make yourself known to be someone that can be helpful. Therefore, moving forward, you can set yourself up for a good relationship, and you might end up being the most expensive person. But because they've had those conversations with you, they've committed and unconsciously trust you to deliver what you say you're going to deliver, no matter what the cost is, okay? Because not everyone goes with the cheapest price. That's completely fair and reasonable, and we understand that. Some people are sort of forced into it, which sort of sucks. But there are people that do obviously have the dollary dues that are happy to spend it. And if you work with them to a certain point, they will just give you the job, whatever the price ends up being. Okay, that is very, very common. And once you find the right people in the right community, in the right group, you'll be sweet as moving forward. All right, talking point 8 is competition. Now, I look at competition completely different to the word itself. Competition is pretty much just somebody else doing the same shit you are, and you're just competing to get work. These people, unless they're fuckwits, these people you can team up with and actually kick ass, and you can work with each other as best as practicable to help you both increase the pie, both succeed, and both build yourselves, all right? Now, this might look, for an example, from a builder's perspective, or maybe you're a Sparky or something like that. You might have gone outside of your boundaries and picked up a fucking massive job. And you know the capacity for you to do that job, it's going to hurt all your other projects, and you need to get some guys on board to help you streamline through that. As apprentices, most of us understand that sometimes we get shifted off to other builders and other people just, as labour hire, really. You'll find that happens a lot in the construction industry, especially with, throughout all trades. So you might need a set of hands on a project, pull some cables, you might be doing some decent underground sort of work, and you can get your competitor, technically, who's going to become a mate, get some labour on board to give you a chop out, all right? Or these other competitors who are people in the market might be so busy that they've picked up all these jobs, they've got no capacity, you're a little bit quiet, and they're just dishing off all this work to you, okay? Because they are comfortable enough to tell their client that, go with this person, I trust them as a professional industry, therefore you should trust them as well, okay? And you can understand that you still got to present well and deliver the same quality product that you would with anyone. But that's the sort of idea about competition itself, all right? You will always be in competition. You might be pricing the same job in comparison to others. That's where your communication skills, how you present what you actually deliver can help that process, or maybe even just the network you've already created might level you up in comparison to other competitors. But that being said, don't look at competition as like, fuck you. Look at competition as, know the person, understand their industry as well, and work with them as best as practicable. And it's all good. There's plenty of work out there. You'll find the work. The work will come. I have many competitors in the building inspection industry. I don't see them as competitors. They're just dudes that do the same as me. We talk some shit. We talk about some ridiculous defects that come up. I dish work off to them. They go away. They dish work off to me. We help each other out. And we move on. We don't sook about each other or crack the sads or talk shit. We just do our jobs. So keep that in mind with competition. Don't let it sort of stop you from doing anything further. Don't let it restrict you from trying to expand your business. You might be in a small town. There's 2 roof plumbing companies, and the other roof plumbing company's been there for 40 years, and you're just 2 years inbound. Don't look at it like they're always going to have all the work, all right? You can take some work off them. Don't look at it like that. All you're doing is you're both putting your hand into the market itself, and you're getting out what you what you pretty well deserve, to be honest. And again, you fall back to that presentation. You fall back to what you've delivered before and that confidence and that communication and helping people along the journey. You might be the one that delivers it over here, and old mate over here thinks he's top dick and he just expects the work to come in with no effort because he's done it for so long, and that's been the norm because he's been the only guy in town. And now there's a new guy in the field who's actually delivering a much better service, much better product, and really kicking ass and is true to their word in regards to what they do deliver. All right. Very fucking so important. The final point I want to make is point number 9, which comes down to confidence itself. All right. You will not grow if you're not confident. A lot of people do reach out to me who are subcontractors who work for other builders. They're chippies, and they just pretty well do predominantly one builder's work who they think is a dickhead and don't want to work for him, but they can't expand because they're too scared of what there is out there because it's all unknown. All right. They haven't built that network. They don't have a portfolio. They don't have anything in together to sort of prove to themselves that they want to do other things. And based on these conversations, they don't just want to work for one builder. Okay. They want to expand their businesses and be better. Being confident is probably one of the most important parts of that. If you're comfortable in your situation, that means you're not growing. Very simple. Being uncomfortable in the tasks and actions that you do is telling your body that you are doing something you've never done before, and it doesn't feel good at all. I do it regularly. Good example for me is when I got my job at Kane Constructions. I was still a chippy. I finished my diploma. I called the CEOs of the biggest building companies in Melbourne that had a good reputation and got through to the CEO of Kane Constructions, who turns over they were doing $500 million in construction work a year with 450 employees, and asked for a job, which at the time is something I've never done before. It was very awkward, but in the end, that got just that confidence to communicate, got me in the door, got the job. There's a whole story behind it. Done another podcast on it if you want to listen to it, whatever. But those types of things is what's going to help you really level up, get that work, build your portfolio, build your business, build yourself. And then personally, the confidence builds confidence. So you do all these things, you call these builders, you give them all your portfolio, you ask advice from your mates. Oh, what do you reckon of like this fly? How's this look? How's my website look? Some of your true mates are like, it looks shit, mate. Get someone in to actually give you a good design. You suck. There are others that are just like, yep, it looks great. They actually might know their shit. It'd be all good. But building that confidence is probably one of the most important parts. That's every step you take into doing the next phase of your journey, all right? It's always difficult. There's always going to be some sort of leap. There's always an unknown. There's always, what if they say this? What if they say that? And we just put this bullshit into our heads, which just makes the fucking whole process so difficult. And that's why when you meet people that have already gone through that, they talk about it now and they like mentor people in those situations. Like, mate, just fucking call the person. Put together a website. Put together some designs. Just do it. You're not going to die. No one's going to fucking hurt you. There will be some people that say no, or there'll be some people that let you down. That's completely fair and reasonable. But if you do that 100 times and you get 10 yeses, that's 10 projects. Say you're a builder, that's like 2 years worth of work. Like, there's just effort, stacked effort and action is what's going to deliver you the results that you really want. Okay. And in those situations, you always want to have the end in mind, okay? So as we sort of recapped at the start, understand your product, understand where you want to go in this sort of industry itself. You might just be doing maintenance work at the moment, but you want to do new home builds, okay? Are you going to do volume builds and work for Metricon, or are you going to do some fucking high-end cool shit? If that's the case, if you're going to do the high-end stuff, well, you're not making phone calls to Metricon. You're going to find these reputable builders who do some quality shit. You're going to be going out to interior designers, going to go out to architects. You're going to sort of push the boundaries. Continuing to push the boundaries is what's going to help you get through that boundary. And then you just do it again and again and again and again. And you'll be going up this massive cliff. You look at the top, the fucking things, you can't even see the horizon. It's in the clouds, and you're going one step at a time, and it doesn't feel good. It hurts. Your legs hurt. Everyone thinks it's a bit shit. You complain about things. And then you look back and you realize how far you've come. And then all of a sudden, this is what they talk about in regards to creating luck. Okay. Then you get a lucky break. That one conversation you had over here, pushed into a conversation over here, gave you a recommendation over there, and then you just pulled in a $250,000 marble tiling job for a bloody $250 million property in Toorak, or whatever the situation may be, okay? Or you might get that maintenance contract for that specific company who you've done some little jobs for over a period of time, and they've recognized that, and you've expressed to them that we do have the capacity to expand here and we want a contract. And they go, yep, sweet, we've dealt with you before, we understand how you communicate. You communicate well, you present well, you do the work, you pay accordingly. You charge accordingly, and that's it. It's business. Move on, let's go. So to recap, you've got to understand your price points, obviously how you estimate your quoting processes, understand the product you deliver. There's no wishy-washy bullshit. There's no gray area. There's no broad scope. It's like, I'm doing this, I'm not doing this, and make sure that communication between you and your client, whoever's a builder or maybe just direct to the public or a business, it's very, very, very clear, okay? Never give anyone the bum steer, because that will fuck you up in the long run, and I highly recommend you do not do that, because getting through bad reputation is very, very difficult, and no one wants to do it. The second one was understand what your product actually is, okay? What you're going to deliver. Forward forecast where you want to be, understand a couple of steps along the way, and then focus on that. And then as you sort of take the next step, which is that building that network and that growth, head towards those sort of goals and, action it accordingly. The last one is don't be a pussy. Last one is don't miss out on opportunities because you're not confident. The opportunities will come. You may not have the capacity to do it. It may scare you that you can do it. You might think other companies are better to do it instead of you. Don't be a little bitch. Just take it on. You can figure it out. If you break everything down piece by piece, just like a structure of a home, it's mind-boggling how much goes into it. But when you break it down to putting a noggin inside a wall cavity and shooting it with a nail, and then you straighten a wall, and you just break down all the components, it is easy and it is possible. And the people that do go on to build these big companies and have a lot of success, these are the ones that are taking those risks. These are the ones that are getting uncomfortable as they sit in comfort, all right? So if you want to expand, you want to grow, take on those opportunities. Push, execute, present well, be true to your word. If you do fuck up, you take ownership of that shit and you learn that lesson and you never do it again. And then moving forward, you should have no dramas at all. Well, I hope this episode gave you some sort of guidance. Again, this is more specific to people in the construction industry already. If you like it, give us a share, give us a like, give us a review, all that cool shit. I'm easy. If you don't like it, please let me know, because then I can change it up for the next one. No stress at all. Too easy. We will see you on the next one. Hooroo.